We're going to have a new segment on the stream, which might never happen again, but I'm calling it a new segment. It's going to be called Slop Watch, where whenever a slop YouTuber steps out of their lane and talks about something serious, we fact check them. So we're going to fact check a slop YouTuber who usually talks about like Minecraft streamer drama, but decided to delve in to Israel-Palestine recently out of no reason aside from the fact that they hate Hasan. This is basically it. Like, these people used to make drama videos about gaming YouTubers, but then Hasan came onto the platform. You know, he's on the same platform as the gamers. So now, like, they hate him for getting more viewers than them while talking about things that actually matter. So now, like, in between the videos about like the latest like scandal of like I don't know, Pokimane having an affair with Asmongold's dog or some shit like that. You know, the gamer World of Warcraft, League of Legends, whatever the fuck. I'm just throwing out words that I don't know what they mean. You now have this guy who has the brain power of like an almond telling us what to think about geopolitics, what to think about genocide. So we're gonna check out what WillyMacShow has to tell us. Just let's check out the direction of his content. The direction of his content is put someone with lots of followers in the title. There is not a single video on his channel that is not about another YouTuber. And by far the videos that get the most views are the ones about Hasan, so that's why he's making them. So let's check it out. Let's see what he's got to say and let's fact check him for as long as we reasonably can until it becomes so grating that we would prefer not to live anymore. Let's check it out.
Last year, I started documenting Hasan for his blatantly false reporting.
Why do you talk like that? Why do you talk like that? What is this voice, for one? This is not a real person's voice. I thought my video voice was bad. What's this?
I was right about Ukraine. That's right. War is not imminent. Oh, shock.
An Israeli airstrike hit the Al Ahli hospital. You were so right. They had a 7,000.
Like, he just puts that in. This is not something that these people like to do. Like, they don't actually have to provide proof or evidence for their claims. They just, like, point at someone else saying something and insist that it's wrong without being able to explain why. People who consider themselves political commentators do that, so obviously a slop YouTuber is going to do it way more.
1,000 new troops. So what's going to end up happening is that by April, this is going to be done.
IDF didn't bomb the hospital. Change title. IDF didn't bomb the hospital. Yes, it did.
Does this guy provide any evidence that it didn't bomb the hospital? No, he doesn't. He just insists that it didn't. And because Hasan said that it did, it must be wrong.
Yes, it did!
I criticized him for being a propagandist, coming to conclusions on breaking news when the story hadn't even been fully reported on.
You right now is the same thing.
You are somehow coming to incorrect conclusions about something literally a year later. So you don't even have that excuse.
You always do. I'm just saying,
no,
like this, you're doing it in real time.
You always
you're doing it in real time, bro.
Over the course of an 8-hour broadcast, if you look to literally 3 moments,
how come nobody else shut up as much as you, dude? That does 8-hour broadcasts.
Because no one has the most psychopathic fandom like idiots like you who sit through every minutia.
Isn't it great? Like, you're just supposed to like look at this and assume that he's right or something. He doesn't actually need to make any arguments, doesn't need to provide any proof of his claims. You just look at this and it's like, well, does he actually do that at some point? Let's find out. It's like, look at all these things that he just, I'm insisting is sort of self-evidently bad. Because I don't actually know why they're bad. I just sort of have a gut feeling that they're bad. So let me show them to you. Like you saw in the previous segment where I responded to like a clip of Ethan, like a Ethan Klein Zionist compilation. Rather than just showing you the clip and insisting, oh, this is wrong. I told you why it's wrong. This guy shows you a clip and you're just supposed to listen to it. And I guess it's wrong just because he's pointing at it, I guess.
To find a clippable moment, to be like, he sucks, he's bad. That's the reason, dickhead. All right.
He followed this up by interviewing a terrorist eating up propaganda about taking hostages.
You think he
terrorists, right? You can just brand someone as a terrorist if you're this fucking white guy who sounds like he's struggling to speak. You're this guy here. You can just say that someone is a terrorist, providing zero evidence for it. Why is he a terrorist? He's an Arab in Yemen. Why else would he be a terrorist, right? Someone who, by the way, like, what terrorist attack has he committed? What terrorist attack has he committed? I can point to a terrorist attack that Hila Klein has participated in. What terrorist attack did this guy participate in? Could you point to that for us? Which one? What did he do? I'd like to offer, I believe his name is Rashid Al-Khalidi. We will crowdfund a GoFundMe so you can sue whichever one of these people you choose. This guy could be the easy target. There's precedent for this working because, for example, Sacha Baron Cohen's video Bruno, he framed a random Palestinian grocer as like a terrorist, and he ended up having to pay that guy hundreds of millions of dollars in a defamation case, or at least tens of millions. Rashid, my friend from Yemen, you have a chance at a huge payout here, and we will gladly crowdfund you. Pick like the most egregious of them. calling you a terrorist, and let's get them in court trying to justify that label. I'd love to see that. That would be fantastic.
Propaganda about taking hostages.
He's saying he hasn't spent much time with Chinese people, but one of the captain was Chinese, and he did caught with them, and he danced some music with them, and he was vibing. So he.
This is funny, by the way, because not one of the captains in any of the ships that the Houthis seized in that anti-genocide blockade, by the way, literally a blockade against Western shipping that to put pressure on Western countries and Israel to stop doing genocide. That's what that is. Nonetheless, there was literally no Chinese captain, obviously. How did he talk to a Chinese captain when there is no Chinese captain? What he did is he saw an unrelated video, a TikTok from before this was even happening, of like a ship captain who had docked in Yemen, like doing drugs with Yemenis. A Bulgarian at that, not even a fucking Chinese, because there's no Chinese captains in Yemen. There's no Chinese captains involved in this at all. So he's talking about a TikTok video that he watched, and these guys say like, okay, that's like dispositive evidence that he's a terrorist. Also, even if he had talked to a captain, how would that make him a terrorist? Is terrorism when you speak to someone who was like a crew member of a ship that was seized in an anti-genocide blockade? Just speaking to them makes you a terrorist? Is that how this works? I would love to get this guy on stream to explain to us his logic and also to get him to present to us his evidence.
He likes him, yeah.
So, I mean, what? That's so crazy.
He's saying that they went over the cruise on these.
Is the entire video just like him rehashing a video that he already made, where you're supposed to look at the clips and just assume that he's correct? That whatever he's implying about this is right, even though he provides zero evidence for you to believe that? Like, the reason why this guy is being called a terrorist by this guy is because he's Arab. That's literally, his criteria to be a terrorist is to be Arab. He could not explain to you what terrorist attack he's engaged in. He couldn't even explain to you what terrorism the Houthis have supposedly engaged in. He could just point to like the anti-genocide blockade, and then if he had to deal with a counter-argument on that, he would flop in 2 minutes because he doesn't fucking know what he's talking about. Honestly, these people are embarrassing. Like, who watches this and is just like, yep, you know, he's clearly owning this guy here by just showing a video without being able to refute a thing.
Ships, and they like win them over with their charm, and they make them hate America and the US government.
That's so funny. Okay, that doesn't probably take much.
Yeah, hilarious. The crew is still held captive, and Hasan continues to.
Which crew? Where's the Chinese captain here? Where's the Chinese captain here? Could you point to the Chinese captain for us? Because there is no Chinese captain. Like, we are supposed to believe that stopping ships that are trying to run a blockade to put pressure on countries supporting a genocide, no less, that is terrorism. That is bad. He doesn't need to explain to us why it's bad. He can just point at it because he and his audience are of the same intelligence level, so it works on them.
And Hasan continues to glorify terrorism by playing their propaganda and passing it off.
These are terrorists and this is their propaganda. These are terrorists and this is that. He doesn't even need to prove his initial claims. He just needs to point. Point. It's true because I said so. Don't expect me to actually make any arguments.
His happy musicals.
Speaking of music video,
They love walking over like the American flag and the Israeli flag side by side. They will always like march on it.
when you said music video, I'm
Good.
expecting like
You zoomed in on that? Stepping on the American flag and Israeli flag is just sort of self-evidently bad, I guess. You know, these genocidal imperialist nations.
bad example, Chris Brown dancing, you know.
No. They do like
What is
they do
this?
musicals. They're very musical people.
Praising their leaders, all while hypocritically defending Russia and China's invasion of their neighbors.
You call Crimea? I call it a part of Russian territory. Bitch. That's what I call Crimea. I call it Crimea River. Bite the bullet on the Tim Houthi kid. Why? Why would I ever? If I did something that was f***ed up.
Bite the bullet. What? Like, he doesn't even make his argument. He does not make any sort of argument. You notice that, right? He just shows you things and points at them.
By my estimations, I would of course apologize for it. I have time and time again.
Name one time. He can't because he's never owned up to anything. Hasan continues.
You haven't proven anything. You just show clips and insist that you are correct. This is him doing an ad, of course. Moral consistency. Let's check it out, guys. Wait, what, talking about Jews?
By some of the most inbred fundamentalist hicks.
No, it's not illegal.
It's so beautiful here. I should go to the old city so I can get my fucking shit pushed in. By some of the most inbred fundamentalist hicks.
No, it's not illegal. It's not.
It's just talking about Jews. Would it be wrong? Would this guy think that it was? Oh, he probably would. He's probably like a white nationalist. He probably would think it's wrong if you call like guys who fly Confederate flags in the US inbred hicks as well. Moral consistency. Okay, let's check this out. Let's see if the first 3 minutes of the video aren't even original content. It's just him showing clips for like really dumb people to get angry at.
Hasan's politics really baffles me. He just doesn't seem very consistent. When Russia invaded Ukraine, he constantly justified it by saying Ukraine and its army was full of Nazis. This is the same propaganda Russia pushes. Hasan acted like every citizen in Ukraine was on the verge of
Did he say that he supports the invasion?
fascism.
The reason why a small amount of nationalist forces gaining prominence is additionally terrifying. It's like Tinder, okay? It can call.
This clip is, or I can already tell, it's not him saying the invasion was justified because of this. It's just him saying, acknowledging that something existed.
Cause a fucking wildfire of nationalism because it's already baked in to the attitudes of the commoner, okay? Every person already has like a predisposition towards nationalist tendencies. So the issue is when you start legitimizing the nationalist guys, boom, all of a sudden the country could turn fascist like that, okay?
He justified Russia annexing Ukraine
What?
constantly.
Regardless of whether he wants it or not, he needs it as a buffer state. Exactly. Russia's historic access into the Black Sea.
How was that him justifying that? That was literally just like an explanation of why Russia invaded. And he takes it as like him endorsing it, I guess.
Crimea, that's like...
He just shows clips and you're supposed to take them the way that he's framing them when they don't even say what he's saying at all, for one. And for two, he doesn't actually explain like what is even going on, why you're supposed to think it's bad. Honestly, this video, it's not transformative enough to be considered free use. It's not. It's not. Like saying one line and then showing 10 clips of someone else is not transformative. Hasan should copyright strike this, 100%. He should just copyright strike this. This would not pass in court for fair use. Hasan should just lawsuit this guy and everyone else who makes videos that are just like 5 minutes of a Hasan clip and then one word of commentary. These people should not be allowed to just make money by taking your clips, compiling them, and saying one sentence every 5 minutes. This is like 3 or 4 times more successful than his usual videos. He should not be allowed to get away with this shit. If you want to make a video criticizing someone, you should at least be expected to like respond to their clips for like at least half the duration that you're playing the clips. Ideally, more than the duration that you're playing the clips, but I think that's a fair standard. This is not that. It's him saying one sentence and then he shows like 10 clips in a row. He's not even actually doing anything with the video. It's not transformative in the slightest. There's not like enough commentary here, enough criticism to qualify as fair use.
Okay?
He justified Russia annexing Ukraine constantly.
Regardless of whether he wants it or not, he needs it as a buffer state. Exactly. Russia's historic access into the Black Sea, Crimea, that's like historically and ethnically all Russian, majority Russian.
They're Nazis. Everyone's going to be radicalized. But when it comes to a fundamentalist group like Hamas that theoretically would run the country, Hasan doesn't seem to have those same worries. He justifies it by using Republicans as stand-ins for Hamas.
I'm saying that the gay people and the trans people that are living under those conditions in Gaza, right, see Israel as a far larger problem in their existence than they do like Islamic fundamentalism in terms of governance.
That's not even like the same thing. He's talking about like homophobic attitudes in like third world countries, in colonized countries. And he's comparing that to Hasan, mentioning that like the Azov battalion exists at all. In a clip where Hasan didn't actually say that he thought that justified the Russian invasion. This does not make any sense at all. Like, it's just like, this is what I say all the time. These people's strategy is to either point at something and insist that it is by default wrong, or to compare something with something that is obviously different and insist that it's the same.
If we were getting ruthlessly slaughtered by an alien force, I wouldn't give a fuck if someone was homophobic or not. I'd be like, thank you for
Why are you zooming in on this? Like, it's not self-evidently correct. Why are you zooming in on him here? Like, you think that you just got him in like a fucking ownage moment. What's wrong about what he's saying? Can you explain that?
Fighting against the alien force. That seems awesome that you're doing that. I would actually arm up side by side with my fellow homophobic, Republican, rabid Christian fundamentalist sociopaths to try and protect my home. And that's the point.
That's the same thing as the Azov battalion fighting in Ukraine. How does he have these conflicting opinions? It makes no sense.
It's not, though, because the Azov battalion in Ukraine is not the only Ukrainian armed group. There's no reason for them to exist. One, the state supports them existing, which is bad. Or two, they have too much power so that the state is too scared to get rid of them, which is also bad. You don't need like a specific armed group for neo-Nazis. In Palestine, Hamas is the armed group. It's the only real armed resistance, aside from other armed groups that you also hate just as much. Ukraine is a country with a real military. Azov is but one unit. So what you do in that situation, if you really want to fight the Nazis, is you just forcibly disband that unit and you take the fighters from it and you distribute them through the rest of the military. Whereas, I don't know if you know this, but Palestine does not have a military. It's not allowed to have one. If Palestine had a military, we would not be having this discussion right now at all. Yeah, I mean, I've never seen anyone say that, like, Azov kills gays. They're probably homophobic, but has anyone ever said,
made the horrific decision to call Palestinians' culture inferior? Hasan rightfully called him out for this.
These people are not your allies. They are not the same as us. They come from an inferior culture, and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values stand for, and it is an inferior culture in all ways.
It's terrifying. Like, saying they're inferior, saying they're evil to justify the death and destruction that befalls them is so horrifying.
Because remember, Hasan would never call another culture inferior. He would never do that.
I don't agree in theocracy at all.
But, like, wouldn't that mean that it would be inferior? Or,
no, I wouldn't say that any culture is inferior to one another. All life must be cherished. Their lives are no different, even if they disagree fundamentally with you.
But if we just go back to last year, Hasan was justifying China's invasion of Tibet for the same reason. Their inferior culture. He says China's imperialism is good because they focus on taking over their neighbors.
Chinese development and Chinese military action is either irredentist in nature, which is different than imperialist, where it's more so expansive in its own.
This is him explaining concepts. Like, do you think Hasan thinks that irredentism is good? What? This guy sees an explanation, he takes it as an endorsement.
Limited area rather than global imperialism, which is
China's
done with the express effort
land.
with the
Tibet, Taiwan.
Tibet was literally a feudal slave.
Okay, for one, first thing, he was describing the difference between, say, for example, irredentism, which is like, my country has a right to take this state, this smaller country that is on our border or whatever, versus like American-style globe-spanning imperialism, where it's like, we want to essentially control as much as we reasonably can every single country in the world and force them to pursue our own interests. That was what he was talking about in the first place there, explaining the difference between like China and the US as global powers. He takes an explanation first as like an endorsement. So now let's see what the supposed calling Tibetan culture inferior was.
Feudal slave mandate. Like so autonomous zone.
China did them a favor.
That was one. I mean, in America, when I say something like this, people get very upset. You know, we talk about the Dalai Lama saying "suck my tongue" or whatever, but like that's not far from the norm in normal Tibetan existence before the Communist Party came in and
so China unilaterally took over Tibet.
Like
these are their culture. They basically are trying to, homogenize the culture.
In the name of squashing an inferior culture, China killed over 87,000 Tibetans. That's 1.2 million, 1 out of every 6 Tibetans.
So let's talk about this comparison for a second here. I think it should be pretty self-evident. So Asmongold said that Palestinians deserve to be genocided because they have an inferior culture, because genocide is literally baked into their laws. That's the quote that he said. For one, that's not true. And he explicitly said they have an inferior culture. Straight up. They deserve to be genocided because they have an inferior culture. And the justification that he came up with to justify this idea was that they have genocide baked into their laws. Now, if you can find the genocide law in Palestinian law, in the Palestinian, legal code, please bring it up for us. You're going to have trouble with that. Now, let us talk about Tibet. What did Hasan say about Tibet? Tibet was a country that had slavery, serfdom. This was bad. When China invaded Tibet, it abolished slavery and serfdom. This was good. Do you think that slavery and serfdom are like protected cultural characteristics? Is that the argument that you're making here? Is that genuinely what you believe? So would you say that it was genocide when the North attacked the southern US and forced them to abolish slavery? Was that genocide, my friend? I would like to see your answer to that question. Now, perhaps slavery and serfdom was indeed the culture of someone in Tibet. Like a tiny, tiny economic and social elite. But it certainly was not Tibetan culture. Do you think that most people in Tibet owned slaves and had serfs? Obviously, such a system could not possibly exist. Such a system requires a minority to exercise control over a majority who are the slaves and the serfs themselves. So, you compared there someone making up bullshit to justify genocide with someone invoking something that actually really did exist and that really was abolished as a result of the Chinese invasion, which was literal fucking slavery, like a socioeconomic system of oppression. Like the whole video is comparing things that aren't the same and insisting they're the same, apparently. I do not give a shit about preserving the culture of like a tiny slave-owning elite anywhere in the world. Do you? I would hope not. I would hope that you can see the difference in feudal lords in Tibet owning slaves and Asmongold saying that Palestinians believe that in genocide, so they deserve to be genocided. Something which is not true. Asmongold outright said that, Palestinian culture, all Palestinians are inferior. I do not think that saying that slavery is bad and it's good that it was abolished is the same thing as that. This is, by the way, this is the very first thing off Google.
I don't understand how you could be pro-Palestine and then support Russia and China. Israel's neighbors with Gaza. Does that make what they're doing okay? No, of course not.
Do you think it's okay? Have you ever made a video denouncing it? It seems like instead of actually denouncing it, you just attack people who are against it. I wonder why that is. I wonder why you are so extremely laser focused on that. It's almost like you support the genocide and you're too fucking cowardly to say so.
Oh, of course not. His politics makes no sense. It's constant.
Let's be fair to you. I don't think anything will make sense to you. You're too fucking dumb to understand anything. Let's just be real about that point first. Like, of course it doesn't make sense to you. You think that, like, abolishing slavery is an attack on culture. You think that abolishing slavery is genocide. So, yeah, I'd say you're quite confused here. And I think basically anything would confuse you.
Contradicting himself, but then you realize that he's America bad all the time. That's it.
Let me explain to you 2 principles that you should keep with you, coming from a person who's Turkish, okay? When you look at a situation in the Middle East, you look at what the local government is and who the Western forces are. Never align with the Western forces. That's a principle that you could take home with you if you want to actually be moral or if you want to be smart about...
Notice how he can't actually explain to us how this is wrong? Oh, you just say America bad, America bad. Why do you talk like a 12-year-old? Why are we not able to actually engage with what is being said and just show clips? Why? You haven't responded to fucking anything this whole video. You just show clips. Again, Hasan, copyright strike this guy. Copyright strike him, please. If he contests it, take him to court, and then YouTube has to abide by whatever the court says. And I think there's a pretty good chance that the court would say that this does not constitute legitimate fair use because he's not actually making any criticism of what he's saying. He's just saying, here's what he said and showing clips of it. That is not transformative criticism. It's just like a rage compilation.
The way you analyze other countries, that's one basic principle that you can take home with you.
This is the sort of slop content that should be banned under YouTube's term and service. It should not be. People should not be allowed to make money off just showing clips of other people and not adding anything to them.
All of a sudden,
people like this should be working in McDonald's, working in the mines, not making tons of money off this shit.
Magically, you are above on your foreign policy analysis. You're going to be better off than 90% of people that look at the situation.
That's not what an analysis is. That's doing the same thing Sneeko does. And Hasan's always...
Why can you actually respond to him?
Been this way. He doesn't care about principles or being morally consistent.
Do I think that this could be a dangerous precedent? Absolutely. But the right has been doing this for a very long time.
Yeah, but they're wrong. That's the point. The point is they're wrong, and I hate them, and I hate their tactics.
But no one cares about being morally consistent, or no one cares about...
I do. I care about that.
I know you do, but in the end of the day...
He just wants his side to win at all costs. It's tournament...
Well, yeah, because his side is actually, a side that actually wants good things, and the Republicans want to institute, like, bad things. I think that's probably why he's saying that. Right? It's fucking obvious, right? You would be sitting there abiding by your principles as Hitler puts you in a camp. Well, no, he wouldn't put you in a camp. You'd be by his side. But you know what I mean. Like, playing by your morals and principles while people who don't play by them work to, like, destroy you is probably not a good idea.
Running straight up terrorist propaganda for the past 10 months.
Mamma mia, mamma mia, mamma mia, mamma mia. I'll be making fucking dough.
If this segment is, like, entirely about Rashid, made 5 days ago, this is months after, like, all of the facts regarding what he actually is, his relation to the Houthis and stuff like that were established. Let's see what he says. Let's see if he digs himself a hole that could possibly result in a big, nice payment for our friend in Yemen.
In the pizzeria.
Hasan has been rewriting history when it comes to the Houthi terrorist he did propaganda for. Now he's just...
What makes them terrorists? You never explained to us what terrorism is and why you think they're terrorists.
Some random teenager.
Random fucking Yemeni teenager. The Yemeni kid not connected to the Houthis. And
he is a 19-year-old Yemeni teenager, not from the Houthi tribe, nor from the Houthi organization.
This has been
established for months at this point. For months.
Not only does it not matter to me if he was or not, it would obviously change the dynamic of the interview if he was. Most people don't know that he isn't a Houthi or have seen his post about respecting Jews. I don't really care. They will just say, oh, he's doing PR.
These are all provable lies. When Hasan initially interviewed the Houthi, it was framed as him being a terrorist.
Bro, are we about to have a Houthi rebel on stream? Yes, brother. What do you mean?
It was framed as him thinking that. And then he was corrected in the middle of the interview when the guy was like, no, actually, I'm just a random guy who uploaded TikToks.
Excuse me? Of course I'm about to have I'm a journalist, okay? This is journalism.
When Hasan asked if he was Houthi, the guy did not answer, instead referring to the Houthis' justification for pirating commercial ships.
I don't know if he is allowed to speak on this. I don't know if he's like actually a part of the groups at all, or just like simply...
He said, no, he doesn't actually know. He said, this is just contradicting the clip that you just showed, because he didn't actually know.
TikToker,
Like, you shouldn't show clips that just contradict what you just tried to imply.
know what I mean? I don't know how to ask that in the best way possible, though.
Yeah, I feel like you can ask it pretty directly. His answer is he's a Yemeni who stands with Palestine.
Hasan will go on to greenlight the
He's a Yemeni who stands with Palestine, so he did not say that he is a member of the organization or anything. That's your proof that he is? I think we should at least ask a decent defamation lawyer about this.
His mission of attacking civilian commercial ships on behalf of him and his entire chat.
We think
attacking civilian. Look at his fucking face there. That is like wow. That was incredible. Did you see him?
We think the.
Where is it?
I feel like you can ask
his mission of attacking civilian commercial.
Look at like the fake outrage face.
Ships on behalf of him and his entire.
Like the fake outrage face, the fake gestures. The no chin. Like he's the guy from the comic strip, and it's like, where the fuck is your chin? That's this guy.
Chat.
We think the Houthis, Ansar Allah, is doing what Luffy would do. You should tell him that.
The whole point of this interview was to make this Houthi soldier seem relatable.
You know how this guy, he does not see any reason to argue, not just why this guy is a terrorist. He does not see any reason to argue why it is wrong to blockade ships from countries that are supporting genocide. He does not try to argue, how this guy is linked to that, how the Houthis are terrorists. He does not point to any sort of specific anything. He just feels that it's a default that everyone should agree with. When if you cornered him on this, do you think he could tell you? Like, I'd love to get this guy on stream and say, okay, hands up, show us your hands, no Googling. Explain to us in 5 minutes or less how and why the Houthis are terrorists. Not even that guy, how the Houthis are terrorists. I would fucking love to know that.
He's just like me and you. One of his viewers would point this out and Hasan would tell him to shut up.
Maybe explain why you're trying to get this type of humanizing information from. Okay, shut up, chatter. Come on. It's not like, that's crazy. What does he have to say to dumbasses that consider him to be a terrorist? What does he think about that? Ask me that question. I just banned one of those stupid fuckers in the chat just now.
She says, who are they?
Just fucking dumbasses.
Wow, what an insightful interview. When a viewer offered a real question for Hasan to ask, Hasan ignores it, instead asking about food.
Okay, what else do I want to ask? So, he's...
What real question?
Ask him if he would stop going on boats if Israel stops the genocide. I mean, yeah, he's going to say yes, chat.
They've already said that. That's why the blockade is being carried out. To stop the genocide. And for one, he's not even doing that. He's a guy who visited one of the boats because it's a literal fucking tourist attraction that anyone can visit. The organization has straight up said that numerous times.
What are you talking about? Those are like dumbass questions. Has he ever had like Western food?
Great question. Hasan has woven an imaginary personality.
How dare you treat this guy from Yemen like a 19-year-old guy from Yemen? How dare you treat him like a human being? How dare you try to have a conversation with another human being rather than treating him like a terrorist because of his nationality and the fact that he's against Israeli genocide? How dare you? How dare you, Mr. No Chin here? He's enraged by that. He can't explain to you how and why this guy is a terrorist. He can't even explain to you why the Houthis are terrorists. And for the record, this guy is obviously not even connected to them in any formal manner. But how dare you ask normal questions about himself? They are not to be humanized.
For this guy, where he's not a Houthi, he's not anti-Semitic, he's basically just Anne Frank.
First of all, he wasn't Houthi. I asked him. He was like, I'm not.
This never happened in his interview. He's just lying. When the pirate was asked if he was a soldier on...
The pirate was... so he's a pirate, he's a Houthi terrorist, he's all of these things that you would need to actually prove in court.
Instagram, he replied yes. Now his Instagram was banned, but this was still documented in news articles.
What does it mean if he's a soldier anyway? Let's say that he was a soldier. By the way, Healer Klein said that she was a soldier. So, okay, let's say that he said that he was a soldier. Could you explain how that makes him a terrorist exactly? Is being a Yemeni and being a soldier terrorist?
At the time. And who is the current governing body in Yemen? It's the Houthis. Stop believing.
Oh, so the Houthis you recognize the Houthis as a legitimate government of Yemen. Thank you for that. Thank you for taking a firm stand against the American foreign policy line that actually the Saudi-backed, US-Israeli-backed government is the real government of Yemen. Thank you for your recognition. We appreciate it. Terrorist?
This live from Hasan.
Many people said, oh, he's hiding it. He's PR trained, which is really funny to say about like some random...
Did you look at that guy? Did you PR trained?
Dude who can't even speak English.
You said that. It was because he wouldn't answer the only 2 serious questions you asked.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I mean, I don't know. I feel like he's very media trained, surprisingly, but okay.
Now, I used to think Hasan just had 0 critical thinking skills, but the truth is he's doing propaganda.
And I asked him, like, what do you think about Jewish people? What if I were to tell you that, like, Jewish people are leading the anti-Zionist movement in America? And he was like, that's great. I love them. That's awesome. Anyone who's against Israel is my friend.
Even here, Hasan is completely over-embellishing what was said.
Ask him what he thinks about the fact that in America, some of the like leading groups that are pro-Palestine are led by Jewish people who are anti-Israel. How does he feel about that?
He's saying anyone that supports Palestine, we're with.
Hell yeah.
So
That's it.
Okay. How is that like contradictory to what Hasan said he said. Any plans to explain?
That's all he said. The same media-trained answer he's been giving Hasan all night. Hasan goes on and compares him to Anne Frank.
He is a person whose only experience is like, it's literally like...
Yeah. Do you not know anything about fucking Yemen? Yemen was subjected to a 10-year fucking long Saudi American-Israeli genocide. He's 19 years old. This guy, when that began, he was a fucking child. He was like 9, 10. So yeah, comparing him to another child who endured genocide, yeah, I would say that is a fair comparison. It's a way fairer comparison than any of the comparisons that you've made here. You compared fucking wanting to abolish slavery to wanting to genocide people for having an inferior culture. I don't know. I don't know about your capacity to make apt comparisons here.
Like talking to fucking Anne Frank, basically, okay? Being able to talk to Anne Frank in real time.
Now, I don't remember Anne Frank being part of a militia group that boarded commercial vessels and took
You know what? Maybe Anne Frank should have been part of a militia group that boarded commercial vessels and took captives. Maybe she should have. I wish she would have. Are you against, like, blockades on Nazi shipping? Are you against Jewish resistance to Nazi shipping? Do you think that if Anne Frank was a member of a resistance group, she would have been a terrorist? That's the implication that you're making here. And I'm not sure about you taking that route. It's a pretty bad one. You might want to backtrack that. Like, defending people who were murdered by the Nazis by saying, like, they didn't even take up weapons is implying that if they did, it would have been wrong. You get that, right? These people did. They took up arms against the people who wanted to wipe them out. The Saudis, the Americans, the Israelis. And they grew so strong that as a result of that, they are now able to blockade ships from countries that support an ongoing genocide in another country. They don't have to do that. They choose to do it. And good on them for doing so. If only Anne Frank had survived to be able to do something like this.
Shooting missiles at commercial ships that have nothing to do with their stated mission.
Missiles at commercial ships that have nothing to do with their state, no connection to Israel. Do you know that basically like every single ship, every single country in Europe, the US, Canada, Australia, fucking supports Israel? Out the fucking ass. Weapons, trade, everything they could ever want. They get it. Diplomatic support. They get it. So just saying the ship has no connection with Israel specifically is an obvious lie, because by proxy, by that, every fucking ship there has a connection to Israel. Could you imagine this guy arguing against like a British blockade on Germany in World War II, saying like, oh, but they're attacking ships from like pro-Axis countries as well. Okay. And good on them, honestly.
Against Israel. But you know, Anne Frank had a diary. This guy had Twitter, so let's read it. Here's him saying you shouldn't be afraid of the Houthi unless you're a Jew. They are very afraid of this title. Here's him.
So one of the things that these people like to do is they like to weaponize the fact that if you are in the Middle East, Jew is synonymous with Israeli. And the reason for that is that the Israelis have made it synonymous. You know, they like that. Israel, Zionists have worked to make Jew synonymous with Israeli all throughout the world, because they want people to believe that, like, for one, to be Jewish is something incredibly special, and for two, to be Jewish means to be a Zionist. So when you are a Yemeni and you have a genocide being conducted against your country for a decade by the Saudis, supported by the US, who is the principal enabler of Israel, and the Israelis themselves, what does Jew mean to you? It means Israeli. It means these people who have just supported. So they use that as a synonym with no regard, as anyone else in the same situation would. Just as people in World War II, you know, do you think that American soldiers fighting the Nazis only said Nazi? No, they said German. They called them Krauts. Do you know why that is? Well, because what did they know of Germans, aside from that they were fighting them and they were Nazis? Those American soldiers did not endure themselves at the hands of the Nazis anything akin to what this guy has endured, to what Yemen has endured at the hands of Zionists, at the hands of the Americans and the Israelis. So like, the best that you have against them is that they do not make a distinction that, to be clear, Israel does not even want them to make. It's just so self-evidently weak. Like, a Yemeni thinks that Jews are Israelis. A Yemeni who probably has no idea that there are Jews who don't live in Israel and don't want to live in Israel associates the country that claims incessantly that it is a representative of the Jewish people, that is made up of majority Jews who go and massacre people in all of its neighboring countries in the name of what they say is Judaism and Jewishness. You're surprised that that guy would equate Jew with Israeli, Jew with Zionist? You blame him for that, but not the people who made that happen? That's all there is to say about that. It's pretty self-evidently absurd, and imagine this fucking moron trying to argue against it. I could not imagine him trying to argue against anything, honestly.
be afraid of the Houthi unless you're a Jew. They are very afraid of this title. Here's him insulting his enemies by calling them son of a Jew. He would post pictures on the
That is a lyric to a song, I'm pretty sure.
pirated ship saying ready for sacrifice, longing for martyrdom.
Okay. Longing for martyrdom? I've never heard anyone pronounce that word that way in my life. Martyrdom. What, he wants to become like a Rick and Morty character? Is that's the only way that makes any sense, my friend. I love you. Like, it's obvious how out of your depth you are, but the fact that you can't even pronounce the word martyr.
Pictures on the pirated ship saying ready for sacrifice.
What, ready for like, can you not imagine yourself? You can't imagine yourself, someone being willing to fight for something bigger than themselves, can you? All that you can imagine is fighting for like the destruction of the social order so that people are driven to work for Grubhub and deliver you Big Macs for cheaper than they did before. You literally cannot believe that someone would say, yeah, I'm ready to sacrifice myself to fight for a cause bigger than mine, like, you know, against the fucking genocide. To you, this is like self-evidently bad. To a sane human, it is the opposite.
For martyrdom. Just like Anne Frank, he actually invited Hasan to join the Houthi in operations of Israeli ships. This guy...
Like, again, he's implying that if Anne Frank and her family had engaged in armed resistance, it would have been okay for the Nazis to kill them. They would have been bad people. They would have been terrorists. Yeah, because that's the only distinction that he's not actually trying to make a distinction between them as people, between what they have experienced. He's rather just appealing to the fact that Anne Frank did not pick up a gun. That's the only argument that he's made. And that argument takes you to a pretty fucking dark place.
Posted an illustration of what he described to be a Zionist impaled on his stake, saying the executions we will carry out on all Zionists.
Okay, and what is a Zionist? To this guy especially. A Zionist is someone who is currently fucking genociding people in Palestine. What if he said this is the execution that we'll carry out on all Nazis? Would that be wrong? Would that be bad? I mean, no, you would think that's... I'm sorry, yeah, you would think... You're a Nazi, you would think that's fucking bad. You would talk about how it's anti-white racism. You talk about how Cracker is...
This guy is anti-Semitic. The Houthi flag states death to America, death to Israel, a curse upon the Jews. And to
I already explained precisely why that is the case. How dare they? How dare they hate Israel and the USA? How dare they hate the people who have done everything possible to make them hate them?
Defends him, saying he's not anti-Semitic, he's just anti-Zionist.
He made a post saying he wants to kill all Zionists and posted a picture of a Jewish person being spiked.
These people are so fucking dumb. Could you imagine this idiot attempting to speak to me live?
I don't think that's what he... What? Yeah, I don't know. Also, I don't even give a shit. This is why this entire conversation is fucking idiotic. It's not a Jewish person. He said, this is, I think if we're... Why am I held accountable for some random fucking 19-year-old in Yemen's tweets? What is happening? How many steps removed are we from this situation? How? How is this the conversation that you want to have right now? I fucking despise all of you, dude.
I mean, precisely. That's really the crux of it, isn't it? This guy is making videos, desperately trying to get views, while sponsored by like fucking personal finance scams, just posting Hasan clips and offering no substantial criticism, no refutation, not even an explanation for what he's trying to imply. While the genocide is happening, that is what he's doing. That is like the level of his engagement with the world. That is what he cares about. Probably the reason why he's so angry about this is just because it perfectly describes him. This part right here. That is you. This is you, my man. He's talking about you. You're desperately trying to spin some clips of Hasan in like any which way and not even trying to explain what you find wrong with them in any sort of detail. Like, not in one case have you ever actually directly dealt with it with one of them. And people are being massacred right now. Children are being blown to fucking smithereens. And this is what you're talking about. How much you like disagree with someone for reasons that you cannot explain, who is against all of that. It is so self-evidently absurd and stupid.
I do. I really do. I hate all of you.
You aren't responsible for his tweets, but you're...
What's wrong with this tweet? How can you argue he's not part of the Houthi? Because he posted a video about ships being sunk by the Houthis and said, to every Zionist, I will put this into your stomach. This is for you, this is evidence of him being a Houthi. Not that it would be bad if he was, but I would love for this to be taken to court and for him to be like, Your Honor, he posted a tweet saying that he wants to shoot Zionists. I rest my case. He's a formal member of the Houthi organization.
Constantly playing defense for this guy's anti-Semitism. I want to take a moment and talk about the word Zionist. All it means is someone who thinks Israel has the right to exist, which is...
And all that Nazi means is someone who thinks that Germany has the right to exist as a sovereign Aryan state, right? That's all that it means, no?
90% of Jewish people. Now, Hasan...
Oh, this is 90% of Israeli Jews. That was not 90% of Jews. It was 90% of Israeli. He just equated all Jews with Israelis. Did you see that headline? 90% of Israeli Jews. So he just did the thing where you equate Israeli with Jewish. Incredible. And isn't it interesting how apparently Israel should be allowed to have a state at the expense of Palestinians on stolen Palestinian land from which they expelled 800,000 Palestinians and have massacred hundreds of thousands more. Just because they're Jewish and they say they should have it. That's the logic of this guy here. It's the appeal to Jewishness fallacy. If a sufficient majority of Jews want something, that's it. You don't have to make any other argument. Done. Okay, this is taking away. There's no way I'm watching 35 minutes of this guy making a statement confidently, showing a bunch of clips that are barely even related to that statement, providing no explanation for what he thinks was wrong in that clip, and then just moving on as if he's proven his point. It's just going to be the same throughout the video. I've watched way too much of it already, but I mean, yeah. This has been your Slop Watch, and I give this Slop YouTuber a 0 out of 10. At no point did he make a coherent argument, at no point did he provide any evidence for his beliefs. It is so bad that legitimately, if you took this to court for a violation of fair use principles, it would not pass. It would not pass the fair use test.